Wow, I just said that. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday. I'm awake. It's all right. And usually I show up here and it's not much to really talk about because I just kind of babble on and then finally a topic hits. Well, this morning I showed right up with something. Robert Duvall, Jesse Jackson. I'm not a movie person. I don't watch a lot of movies, but I know Robert Duvall's name. And listening to people, a lot of people know his movies and stuff, so actor. I don't have any thoughts or anything on Robert Duvall. Admittedly, and there are many folks who are going to dislike what I'm about to say, but I'm a little torn on Jesse Jackson. Let's start with the basics. You never wish ill will, death, or any of that stuff, because he had some kind of cancer, I believe, and you don't wish that on people. I don't. But Jesse Jackson, it's like there are multiple versions of Jesse Jackson. There's the Jesse Jackson that we knew who stood side by side with Martin Luther King Jr., both of whom we know were flawed personalities, but there was a goal. And then there's the Jesse Jackson that showed up in the mid to late 80s. And the political Jesse Jackson, I guess you would call it. And I just wasn't on board with that version of Jesse Jackson. A lot of people can call it kind of a race baiting kind of agenda that he had, which I would call it. But it's just, it's difficult. It's difficult, you know, because my father was one of those. He grew up in the 50s, 40s, 50s, you know, 60s, he was in college. And he had worldviews based on his upbringing. He held with them. Now, he knew how to present in public. He knew how to behave and act and be respectful and all that stuff. So it wasn't like he was walking around in his Black Panther uniform just protesting everything. But he had some walls that he built socially and racially. And so from that generation, I kind of get it. But at my age, if you're a politician, if you're trying to convince me of something, and the first thing you mention is, well, this race, that race, I shut down. I don't think like that. And yes, in some cases, race does matter. But I just don't think like that. It's naive. I'm sure it is. I just can't bring myself to think like that. I grew up in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. It's the 70s and 80s. And if you know anything about Anne Arundel County, Maryland, the word they would use nowadays is diverse. It was extremely diverse. I had neighbors who were from Pakistan. I had folks up the street that lived next to me, well, not next to me, but lived up the street. There were a set of brothers from Italy, literally bought houses next door to each other. We knew all the Asians. Well, we didn't know all the Asians, but you know what I mean? It wasn't, as kids, and I've actually mentioned it like this, as kids, you know, when you go to someone else's house, it was common, like you went to the Lakhani's house, you heard the Pakistani language. You went to the Modigliani's house, you heard some Italian. You know, the food at different people's houses, you know, that was all part of it. But when you left the house, there were a couple of things that were common. Everybody spoke English, even if it was broken English. Everybody spoke English. There was no, you know, I'm talking to you like this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, Big Gates, you know, all that other stuff. You didn't switch languages in public. Unless there was an elder who needed translation. But yeah, everybody spoke English in public. And everybody played baseball. Those are the two things. And I just didn't grow up with a mindset that was worried about how you were painted. So when we discuss folks like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, there's a air quotes Reverend Barber guy out of North Carolina. A lot of these, what I can't call anything but race-baiting peoples, I have a difficult time celebrating their accomplishments because I just don't vibe with it. You know, I told my oldest daughter this years ago. You have to learn to differentiate between someone who's racist or bigoted or whatever, and someone who's just a jerk. Being a jerk doesn't make you all the other things. It just makes you a jerk. Guilty sometimes. Guilty a lot of times. But yeah, super historical figure, Jesse Jackson, mainly because of his association with Martin Luther King Jr. and also for his presidential run, I want to say in '84. But that's kind of about it for me. I would celebrate Satchel Paige and Jackie Robinson more than I would celebrate Jesse Jackson. Yeah. Crash. I don't know what that means. But what about Michael Jackson? I would celebrate Michael Jackson before I would celebrate Jesse Jackson. I'm just not a fan of that kind of politics. Yes, exactly. It was political with him. You know, it wasn't. And it's sad because, like I say, the situation in Memphis, where Dr. King was assassinated, is one that I have a lot of hypotheses about. And it's nothing proven, and it's nothing even worth mentioning here because it's just me and my little, tinfoil hat thinking about things and saying, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And we all know that Martin Luther King Jr. did have political associations. You could argue there was a level of political corruptness in his associations. But I don't know how better to put it. It's one of those things. Okay, this might be the best way to put it, and this is kind of how I would have this conversation with my father. As a suburban black kid, a lot of the stuff that you hear people talking about was not in my world. As a suburban black kid, I did not grow up worried about the police. As a suburban black kid, I did not have the proverbial struggle. And so a lot of the things that these folks were talking about just wasn't on my radar. As a matter of fact, I've mentioned before, when NWA first came out, I thought it was comedy. I did not think it was real. I did not think this was how people really lived. I didn't. It wasn't in my world. And it got to a point where I borderline used to get offended when people just assumed, well, black dude, I bet you can dance. Nope, can't dance. Bet you can play basketball. Nope, played hockey. Bet you like rap music. Nope. Raised on country, bluegrass, and gospel. You know what I mean? And when you have people, and they do it in modern politics now, where they have these things that were like, well, if you have the voter ID, then minorities won't be able to vote. What? I know where the DMV is, dude. But they keep pushing this. And I equate Jesse Jackson with this line of thinking. It's like busing. Once again, we go to Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I went to Old Mill High School. For the casual human, there are two associations that I guess a lot of people can have with Old Mill High School. Number one, Josh Hader was a closer for the Brewers. Yeah, he was a baseball player, Major League Baseball. He still is, I think. The other one is Lester Spate, who was on Prison Break. But he was an actor, big man. So Old Mill High School, Anne Arundel County. So at the time that I was there, it was kind of a yuppie-ish high school. But we also had Annapolis High School, which was very black. And we had Meade High School, and I think South River was kind of dark too. I'm not sure. We didn't play that much. But Annapolis did not have a need. Even though Annapolis was very majority black, there was no need to bus kids to other schools, because you know what? Those kids will prosper because they're kids and they will be taught. You know, there was. So when you think about things like busing, when you think about things like when they say, well, this minority community can't, and you can stop the sentence right there. This community cannot. No. You can't tell me just because of how you're painted that you can or cannot do certain things. And so, like I said, that's how I see the legacy of Jesse Jackson. I'm torn. I know the man is significant, but I can't put him on that same level as a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I cannot put him on the same level as a Sojourner Truth. I cannot put him on the same level as Malcolm X, because you know what Malcolm X was? Genuine. I just never saw the man as genuine, and I'm sorry for his passing. I really am. But I think when we rank the historical significance of some individuals, we need to take it all with a grain of salt here. Like actually think about what a person has done for society. That's good or bad. And the political movement that Jesse Jackson, in my view, helped to spawn wasn't beneficial to the United States as a whole. That's my opinion. And once again, you're talking to a suburban black kid from the 80s. I don't know the experience of someone who grew up in the inner city. I don't know the experience of someone who grew up in the sticks. I don't know. But from my vantage point, I said, yes, Michael Jackson, I'd celebrate him over Jesse Jackson. He coined the phrase African, and that's a problem. Here we go, right? Here we go. I am not African. Not. There is nothing outside of DNA in me that is African. I'm American. That's it. And this is part of that. There's a thought process that happens when you do these things. the British are interesting like this. I've met maybe more than 100 Britons personally, face to face. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, that's kind of my point. I don't like the hyphenated categorizations. I just don't like that. I don't think it's productive. It's like, okay, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, do you like... All right, that was a bad analogy. I'm going to just cut that out right now. But it's like, because, yeah, I can't make that analogy. But it's like, if you're part of the same team, do you feel a need to say, I'm on this well, I'm on the team, but okay, here's a good example. Clarice. I don't get it. But if you're supposed to be part of the team, the team being America, the United States of America, I guess I just don't see the purpose, the benefit of saying, yep, I'm an American, but... And that's what I was saying about the Britons, the British, they have a pretty common accent, a pretty common lexicon. And until recently, the British that I had met, they said, yeah, we're British, that's it. That's it. I don't know, because, I mean, the world changes and society's changed and all that. They might have gotten to that point now. But I'd rather just be an American. I don't need all the layers. Let me think. If I were to actually hyphenate everything, I mean, that's true. But if I were to hyphenate everything, I'd be some kind of Caribbean, African, Irish, very Irish, and Native American. And then if you talk Native American, that even becomes kind of funny, because depending on which Native American you're talking to, they could be descendants of Vikings, they could be Aztecs, they could be whatever. It's all very complicated, and it shouldn't be, because what you should be is just people, my opinion. I keep saying my opinion because I know how folks are. Like this person on my tail, even though I'm going 74 in cruise control, apparently they're in a hurry. So, yep, go on. Yes, Native Americans are not just Native Americans. And okay, that's actually a good point, because that's kind of what I'm getting at with the Jesse Jackson and the racial politics here. Like I said, I did not grow up with all of these concerns that when you look at the news media, they say black people should have concerns. Never had a cross moment with a cop in my life. Never. Never. I mean, have I been pulled over? Yes. Have I been arrested? Yes. But have I been wrongfully whatever happened? No. No. It's just never happened. Now, that being said, I am pretty sure that if I grew up somewhere in East Detroit, let's say, I would probably have these experiences. But I don't. And I say that to say, no, this doesn't make us all the same so far as life experience and so far as our worldviews. It doesn't. And it really kind of grinds my gears, hashtag Peter Griffin. It grinds my gears when people just assume. That's like if I ran into I don't know, if I ran into an Asian, and I'm still breaking myself for the Oriental habit, but if I ran into an Asian and I just assumed that they were smarter than me. I've met some pretty dumb Asians. It's not you. There is no such thing as every in that respect. And I think that so far as our sociopolitics, when you have folks that come out there and do that everything, Indians are, yes. My wife is Halawasaponi, and they don't like anyone. They don't like anyone. It's in their books. They are kind of separatists. And that doesn't mean they're bad folks. I haven't had any, the ones from India? Yes, and I know that to be true, because the funny thing is, I have compared the triangle in North Carolina to what I know of the culture of India. Because, yeah. And it's crazy. All of these things that, it's this right here. Zero control over it. None of us. Well, I mean, you can get surgeries and do things, but you know what I mean. Zero control. You don't pick your skin color. You don't pick your eye color. You're born, you're given things, and a large majority of us would say you were gifted things from God, and now you go figure out how to make it useful for yourself in the world. That's it. Turmeric. As for the men wearing parasols thing, the Gen X part of me says, no, dude, you better take that sun and do what you're doing. My dad used to tell me when I was a kid, he used to tell me that I needed to understand my complexion, and understand that my complexion simply meant that I would have to work harder. Now, he told me that wouldn't stop you from getting opportunity. You're going to have to work harder. That's coming from his world, 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And I'm not going to say that he was wrong. But what I will say is, what I got out of that was, you don't have an excuse. You have a resolution. If Joe Smith over there doesn't think you're worthwhile, show it. Work harder. Show it. That's how you get past it. And like I said, that's kind of been my mindset. I have never had anyone call me the N-word to my face. I've had some people post it on here, but, keyboard gangsters, whatever. But I'm 52 years old. Never in my life has anyone right here, nose to nose, eye to eye, said that to me. I've heard more. Okay, I learned that there's a hard R, and apparently it's whatever. But I've heard more derogatory speech with the A at the end than like I said, that's what I've heard. I've never. Now that, once again, that's my experience. I haven't been in those, and I have to talk to folks. I've talked to folks about this before also. I haven't been in the environments where this is more likely to happen, because things can happen anywhere. And so, yeah, this all came from the Jesse Jackson conversation, because in my lifetime, I have never had a need for that kind of justice. Now, one could argue, and I'm thinking now, right? One could argue that because folks like Jesse Jackson were doing what they're doing, the way they were doing it, that could be why. I will give you that. I will give you that. that is probably, I mean, because we think about our president now, Donald Trump, one of the things he's known for, he will make a ridiculous accusation or request just to get half of it. You know what I mean? So if I think about it, I can give that one. But I look at the end result and a lot of things in our society, especially during the COVIDian days, and everything just jumped to because it's black. Boondocks. If you don't know, I love Boondocks. I think that's a great cartoon. I think it has really good and on-point social commentary, and generationally. And one of the things that's funny in Boondocks is Granddad Freeman there. And Uncle Ruckus is my spirit animal. But but Granddad Freeman, his excuse for everything that he can't do is because he didn't get the opportunity to learn it when he was younger because he was black. That's his answer for everything, because he's black. And my dad was kind of like that. He told me that when he was a kid, he wanted to be an architect, but he couldn't go to college for that because he was black. He told me that because the world he grew up in told him that. I remember when Barack Obama was inaugurated, and I remember people saying, now young black children can know that they can, in fact, aspire to become president of the United States. And this is in 2008, and I'm looking at the TV like, who didn't know that? But I did not grow up in an environment where I did not know that as an American citizen, as a naturally born American citizen, once I reach age 35, I can make a run for president of the United States. I did not know that people thought there were buts on that. I did not grow up in a world where that was a thought. As a matter of fact, this is 9th grade. And I can't remember the teacher's name. It was a female lady, very thin. And it was the 80s, so she had the hair. But it was Law and the Individual, Soul Mill High School. I can name people who were in the class: Zach Howard, Kristen Carbo, Danielle Esam, Christine Haynes, Christine Haynes gone to Verna Park by then. But Cynthia Hawkins, it was all that, I knew who was in the class, but I can't remember the teacher. But at the beginning of the semester, she challenged us to, at the end of the semester, to figure out what her political party was. And so, I forgot where I was going with that, honestly. Just started rambling. But I've just never been in tune with the racial aspect of politics. And I think it's kind of cool now. Oh, that's what it was. So, talking about becoming president. And we had a class, it was the second day of the semester. And we simply went over the requirements. Or what do you expect somebody running for president to have? And we went around the table, like, what do you look for in a president? And one of the answers was male. One of the answers was, you gotta have money. You can't run for president if you're broke. These are 9th graders in high school saying this. One of the answers was working experience. And we had a conversation about that in that class, because there's experience and then there's working experience. Ron Paul would have been tough. He would have been tough, because I think he would have gotten the same treatment that Donald Trump got his first term. And I don't know if Ron Paul has the fortitude to just give the finger to the system and say, this is what we're doing, whether you like it or not. I agree with about 80% of his thoughts and his ideals. I just think as a president, it would have been very difficult. Doesn't mean he shouldn't have been but I'm just saying it would have been tough. But when we had all this conversation in class about all the requirements to be president, it was never mentioned. Yeah, I don't think he would have been able to hold. And that's not to say that he didn't have, like I said, his thought process I thought was right on point for the most part. But as president, I just don't believe he was gravitas. I don't believe he had the gravitas to run the presidency. Let's be real about reality. Herman Cain didn't. No. But all things that I've heard is Herman Cain's a good, hard-working man, but he's not a president. Who was the doctor that Trump put in charge of HUD? Ben, I can't think of his last name. But great man, intelligent man. Ben Carson, thank you. But Ben Carson is not a president. And that's what I say, with Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan. Hey, nerds rule the world, man. But all of these folks were kind of iron-fisted. And I think you kind of have to have a level of egotism to be a president. You have to have a level of my room, my ball, my court, we're playing by my rules in order to be president. And how you define success is such a difficult thing. But if you're going to be president, you kind of have to be willing to say, screw all of you, this is what we're doing. But I am actually getting a call from the office. Yay. So I'm going to cut this short and pull over and be a responsible adult and call the office back. So, all right. So, happy Wednesday. And look, everybody have a very good day. Like I said, rest in peace, Robert Duvall, Jesse Jackson. I have 2 cents worth of thoughts on it. And that's all it is, 2 cents. Everybody, have a good day. Take care.